Hi everyone, welcome to Shelf Control. I'm Norm, and today I thought I would go over a top 10 list of top 10 things I find annoying in games. These are going to be just little things that could be tweaked just to make your gameplay a little bit more fun, things that just kind of not necessarily rules that ruin a game, but parts of the game that just get in the way of just that good enjoyment of a game. So I have 10 things. I have a list down here. I picked out games that I could think of that have those component or rule issues as examples, but there are others than that. I've got 8 games here because there's a couple here that actually fit the criteria for more than one. So let's just move these out of the way. Give myself a little bit of room to talk about these. And we'll start going through my list. These aren't in any particular order, but I guess I'm pretty sure I have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's start with the number 10. Number 10 is something that I found recently in Amsterdam when we were doing the review of Amsterdam. And the problem that I have with the Amsterdam game board and other games that do this is score tracks that only have the numbers at every 5 spot instead of numbers all the way along. And like I said, these aren't going to be game breaking, but they're things that I just find annoying. And me personally, I can, if I have to do math to add points, I like being able to look at a board and being like, okay, I'm at 22 and I'm adding 17 and knowing exactly where to go instead of having to count up. Or be like, okay, if I'm here, let's see, I'm 21, I'm 23 here. So then if I need to get to 41, okay, there's 40 and there's 1. It seems to add a couple more steps in my brain process. I can't just look at where my pointer is between those marks and know for sure, am I at 18? Am I at 17? And it just makes it that much easier. I don't know why some games choose not to put the numbers around here. In the city collection that they came out with, some games have all the numbers around, and some of them, like this, don't. I don't know why they decided to go with that in some games and not with others. It also helps out a lot when it's not your turn and you're just paying attention to what other people are doing. And they're like, okay, I'm going to get 8 points, so I'm going to go from here to here. If the numbers aren't there, I can't quickly verify, okay, you actually put yourself where you were supposed to be. And then if someone's like, wait, where was I? I'm like, I don't know, you were somewhere in here, instead of having a number in my mind. So that is the number 10. Boards that don't have the score in every square around the board, but instead at every 5. My number 9, I found in Great Western Trail 2nd edition. And the problem that I have in here is different denominations that are the exact same size. So whether it's the 1 or the 5, both coins are exactly the same size. To make matters worse, one side of the coin doesn't even have the number on it. It says GWT for Great Western Trail, and you have to flip them over to this side to see 5 and 1. And kind of as an aside for this, in the rule book they called this a gold coin worth 5 and this a silver coin worth 1. In the original, you had a copper that was worth 1 and a silver that was worth 5. And so now they've decided to just switch those. But the color, this definitely looks more like copper to me than gold. And all of a sudden it's the 5 and this is the 1. And especially if they're face down on the pile and I'm going for a 1 value, I'm picking up the copper piece. Oh wait, it's 5. But in the original, the copper was 1, the silver was 5, and it was also a little bit bigger. And so if you had all the coins in a pile, you could tell by the size which coin was worth more than the others. So there are some games where the amount of points that you have is hidden. And in those cases, I can see them being the same size and not being marked on the other side. So you can have them face down in front of you and nobody knows how many points you got. But this is money that you spend, and I don't know, the money in this version of the game is just totally screwed up, I think. But anyways, that was number 9. Denominations of money that are the same size. 9, 8, 7. I'm going to move some of these over to get this out because it is the big box that's on the bottom. And Mechs and Minions is a culprit of this, but so is Great Western Trail, the 2nd edition. And that is inserts that don't fit sleeved cards. What this is 2023. We've got so many cases of games coming out and people asking, will the inserts hold sleeved cards? And we got enough people who do sleeve cards that it shouldn't be a surprise that people are going to want to sleeve the cards and put them in a game. And I'll tell you what, with the Riot Games League of Legends, the production value in this game is through the roof for a first-time board game publisher. So I can give them a little bit of slack for not realizing that the spots for the cards should be made a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper to hold sleeved cards. And as it is, this insert just does not work with sleeve cards at all. But for a game like Great Western Trail 2nd edition, there's no excuse for having an insert that can't hold sleeved cards. And I think they made some changes in the second printing of the 2nd edition, where they changed the insert to be able to hold the bags and with the tiles in it. I don't know if they also made the card wells bigger. I have the first printing, and so I'm stuck with an insert that I got sleeves coming in a couple days to sleeve this up, and I'm probably chucking the insert into the recycling bin. Storage not helping with setup is my number 6. Let's bring Great Western Trail out again. This one's going to be an example for 3. And this is the storage not helping with the setup. And the insert in here, it has the problem with not holding sleeved cards. But it also has a problem where here is where all the buildings go for the different players, for the different colors. There's the red, the blue, the yellow, and the white. And all those just go in here. And you've got your colors up in here. Under here you've got your tiles, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the cards, but with the first edition of this game, it didn't come with an insert, so I didn't have this thing of trying to keep the insert and make it functional. So I would have a Ziploc bag, and inside that Ziploc bag would be the red player's pieces, the red player's deck of cards, the red player's buildings, and the red player's insert for the board for multiple player counts. And so everything that the red player needed was in one baggie, and so you would just hand that out and be like, here's all your stuff. I'll go over with you how to set it up. Blue player, here's a baggie with all your stuff. And in this one, it's like, okay, let me fish out the blue buildings. Are we playing with red? No, red player. Okay, so let me fish out the white for the white person, and then let me go over here and get this. And I don't know if the people are just looking for a nice looking insert that can hold everything nice and pretty and in nice little compartments, and they haven't actually tried playing the game from the storage solution. And so once again, insert's probably going unless I can figure out how to get everything to fit in individual baggies with the insert and the cards. Insert's probably going, but again, storage not helping but actually hindering with the ease of setup. Number 5, I actually, the best example of this, most recent example of this, I actually don't have anymore because we did the review for Hamburg, and me and Lisa both decided that we could live without it, and so we've gotten rid of it. But one of the complaints I had with that is when round tracking is not integrated into the gameplay. So in Hamburg, you have every turn there's 4 rounds where you would play a card from your hand, but you couldn't use the number of cards in your hand to track, okay, what round are we in, because you could draw extra cards or play extra cards. And so the only way that you could keep track of the rounds is, okay, you played a card, you played a card, I played a card, okay, it's going back to you. Let's flip this over to number 2. All right, now you play a card, you play a card, I play a card. Okay, it's back to you. We need to remember, oh, we need to flip this to 3. And then keep going like that for 4 rounds. And then at the end of the 4 rounds, remember, okay, let's reset this back to 1. And it struck me as weird from a Stefan Feld game because so many of his games have those rounds integrated into the gameplay. Like in Castles of Burgundy, every turn you've got the stack of 5 goods, and those goods go out into the 5 rounds, and every time you roll the die, whatever the white die is, you take the one good off and put it out there, and you keep doing that until those 5 goods are gone, and then boom, it's the next round, and you take that off. And so by actually playing the game, the components on the board, there's something functional that you have to do every turn to reset the rounds, and you can't actually play on without that. And so you'd actually get a reminder, be like, oh wait, where's that? Okay, no, we forgot to do this, and let's set it out. Where we would be playing Hamburg, and we would be like, are we in round 3 or 4, and the little round marker is just sitting on 1 because we're just taking our turns back and forth, and we're just going through, and we're enjoying playing the game and not even thinking about resetting the rounds. So as a tip to game designers, if you can get that into the flow of the game so people don't have to question what round they're in. I guess I could use terraforming Mars as an example in this, because you've got the little generation tracker that goes around the outside of the board. It's not important for anything except if you're doing the draft variant. They suggest that you pass it one direction on even rounds and the other direction on odd, so that way you're not passing to the same person every round. You're switching back and forth, and so we would constantly forget to move that generation tracker up, and instead I took the first player token and drew arrows on it going one direction on one side and the other direction on the other, and when you pass it you flip it over, and hopefully that would remind us which way we're supposed to pass, because otherwise, I mean, that generation tracker it's not integrated into the gameplay in any way. There's nothing saying at the end of the turn move the generation tracker up. There's no reminder in the game itself to do that. So, but that's less of an issue in Terraforming Mars than it is in other games. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, Ticket to Ride is the example here, and I don't know that I ever used this much, but it's small cards that you have to handle often. And Ticket to Ride originally comes with these tiny little cards, and it's not an insignificant stack of them, and so you've got to shuffle these tiny little cards, and then you've got to hold these little tiny cards, and it's a huge pain in the butt, so much that the 1910 expansion came out with larger sized cards that make it so much easier. Small cards in games where it's like collect 2 of these at the beginning of the game, and that's your end goal that you're looking for. That's one thing, because you're not handling them all the time. Or if it's just a card that gets laid out on the board with some information, that's one thing. But if you're constantly having to shuffle and draw and hold and play these tiny cards, it's a real nuisance. And so that was number 5, small cards that you play a lot. Number 4, Mosaic is the most recent example of this, and I'm not gonna open the box to try and find them, but the problem with Mosaic is not enough player aids. This game plays up to 6 players, and the game has 3 player aids in it. And so it's not a huge issue if some of the players know how to play. Usually I don't need a player aid, and we'll hand out the player aids to other people. But there should be enough player aids in the box for the number of players that are playing. There's times where we'll be playing a game, and when it's not their turn, a friend might be reading the player aid and being like, "Oh, hey, I can do such and such," or "I have a question about such and such," and it's the player aid is such a good companion to the teach, and a really good player aid works along with the teach, where you can just follow the steps of the player aid while you're teaching. And people having to share a player aid is just inconvenient. It's just a couple more pieces of paper. It's not going to break the bank to add in a player aid for every player. Number 3 is going to be with Earth, and the problem is components that are not easy to handle. So in our copy of the game, we haven't punched out the Earth tokens yet, but that's bound to change because these wooden Earth tokens are a pain to handle. They're this triangular shape. They're just this tiny little triangle, and the problem comes when you're trying to grab a couple of them. With those angles, they slide off of each other and they'll shoot out, and it's like they didn't test these shapes before they went with them. And it's crazy because during the Kickstarter, they had a poll for people to vote on which component shape for the Earth piles would you prefer. And I'm assuming this one got the biggest vote, but the publishers of the game didn't test them out to see if they're even easy to use. This was the most frustrating thing about the game, because I would like reach into my pile or reach in the pile, and a few would shoot out, and have to chase them down, or just picking them up in general was difficult. So this is one game where we might be punching out these Earth cardboard pieces and playing with those, or trying to come up with some other upgraded version for the Earth pieces, because these are just an annoyance to play with. Number 2, again, Amsterdam is going to be the poster boy for this one, although there are other games that are the same, and that is often used information that's not recorded on the board. So in Amsterdam, if you're playing with fewer than 4 players, and it's not so much for the 2 players, but there's 3 types of cards, and in a 4-player game you get 2 of each. In a 2-player game you get 2 of one and 1 of the blue and 1 of the green, and that's fine. I can remember that. But in a 3-player game, they swap it up. During odd rounds, you get 2, 1 blue, 2 green. On even rounds, you get 2 of these, and then 2 blue, 1 green. And then the next turn you swap back to 1 and 2, and then 2 to 1, and then you keep going back and forth. I had to keep this next to me just to keep track of, okay, what round are we in, and how am I supposed to deal these out? There's so many different places in this game that they could have put those. They could have put it on the board somewhere. In New York City, a game that we're trying to get a few more plays in before we do a review on that. In the top corner of the board, it tells you how many pairs of cards to put out for the number of players, and that's not even as confusing as, wait, is it 2 blue and 1 green in an even, or is it 1 blue and 2 green in an even round? You know, it's just in there. It's just, well, how many number of players is it? Well, it's that plus I think 2, and that's how many pairs go out. But they had the foresight to actually put that on the New York board, and they don't have it on the Amsterdam board. And they even have a little round tracker that you put your little counter on, and they could mark on this, for 3 players, this is what gets dealt out for this round. Or if you saw our review, I would have liked to have seen the rounds tracked around the outside of the board like it is in the original Macau, And they could have printed that on here as well and saying, hey, 3 players, don't forget that this is what comes out, instead of having to have the rule book open next to you the whole time you're playing. And for my number one, and this is not by far the most annoying, but it is the most recent annoying, because we were playing this with friends a little while ago, and the problem is components that are unnecessarily difficult to mess with when you're playing. And so in this case, I'm talking about the cat tokens, because you've got different scoring based on the different cats. And so you've got Millie that looks like this, and you've got Callie that looks like this. And depending on how you're scoring, you're going to use either these tiles or these tiles, because they look like the cat that you're scoring. But for ease of setup, I had to put one cat into a small Ziploc bag to go into the bag with the other tiles, along with the big tile letting you know what cat it is. And so you actually have to go through and be like, okay, Millie looks like this. Which one of these looks like this? Okay, not these. So we'll play with these ones this time. But then I'll have to keep this with the bag, so Millie and those can go back into this bag for setup. Without having the other cats in this little tiny bag, you've got all the cats all mixed up, and they don't look the same, and they're in. I don't know if it's true in every case, but Callie and Millie both score 3 points, so it really doesn't matter which of these you use. It seems to me like it would have been so much easier maybe if they added some more scoring possibilities. And so instead of being Millie and Callie, you'd have Millie that likes 3 things, and Callie who likes 3 things in this pattern, but have it both be Millie, both using the same tile, and setup would be so much easier, and Callie could have a totally different scoring thing to go with her things. It's like they wanted to add in all of these cats because they're based off of actual cats, probably people that are involved in publishing this game, which is cute and all, but it really makes it a pain in the butt to set up. They didn't give any thought as to, do people want to sort through a stack of different looking cats? Oh, and they even didn't pick cats that look way different from each other. So you've got Tibbet here and Roomy, and they're both light colored cats, and in their picture they're both curled up in a little ball. And so you've got to look through and be like, okay, is this the bigger cat or the smaller cat? They could have mixed them up a little bit and maybe have gone with, here's the dark cat. On the other side, don't go with the dark cat, go with the light colored cat. And it'll make it that much easier to decide which cat tokens you're supposed to use. It's kind of like Jurassic Park. It's like they considered it, thought it was a cool idea, and thought that they could do it, but nobody ever questioned if they should. And so that's just something that eats at me every time I have to set up this game to be played. Is there's just some quality of life things they could have done to make this easier to set up. Just as simple as switching the cats on the opposite sides of the card, so you have a dark one and a light one on the back, just to make it that much more obvious. So anyways, that is my 10 annoyances in board games. I'm not going to pull mechs and minions out into the picture. So, what are your thoughts? What are your annoyances in board games? Am I being a little bit too hard on some of these? Or it's subjective? These are things that annoy me. Are they things that you can get past and it doesn't bother you? It's worth the effort to go. And I will say that for probably all these games, it is worth the effort to go through, because these games, those annoyances don't stop me from playing them. So they're just things that if the publishers would actually just play a little bit with the games, then they would know, okay, it'd be a little bit easier if we printed this on the board, or this component is really fiddly and hard to hang on to, or what about people who sleeve their cards? Do we have a storage solution for them? How many player aids do we have? It's a 6-player game. Do we have 6-player aids? And things like that. So, anyways, I'm just rambling about my annoyances. These annoyances need to get off my lawn. So, uh, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. I think, judging from watching other people's videos, I'm supposed to say that at the beginning of the video, but then how are you supposed to know if you even like what we're doing? So it feels weird. So if you made it this far, great. Leave a comment about your annoyances. I'm sure that there's other annoyances out here on my shelves that when I sit down and play them, I'm going to be like, oh, that should have been on my list. And maybe we'll have to reintroduce this list later with new annoyances as things come out. But hopefully, as games get better and improve, these will disappear. So until next time, see you later.